Vikram, but let's take this conversation forward because I understand we have Pankaj Karde. He's the head of institutional sales and trading at Systematix shares. Thank you so much, Pankaj, for joining us this Friday afternoon. Quick take in terms of your views on consolidation in the markets.
So what we have seen yesterday, Nifty actually moved up to around 10,750 and above, and today it's correcting a bit. So if you see yesterday, there was a lot of, day before yesterday, and there were a lot of short that were built up in the market, and Nifty actually see a lot of short covering coming in. The Nifty futures were trading at around 20-point discount. The discount actually reduced to around 3 to 4 points yesterday. And if you see today, the discount has again started building up. I really think that markets are in right now in a zone where you can see Nifty is failing to sustain above 10,750 levels. So at any level moving around 10,750, 10,800, you are seeing a fresh amount of shorts that are building up and supply is coming in. But more or less, if you see the markets at this point of time, there has been, it's like when the Nifty and the Nifty stocks are actually correcting and mid caps are actually showing some kind of movement on the upwards. So it's a mixed bag. I think Nifty should correct here to around 10,500 levels, and 10,500 is something like a support, and the range remains between 10,500 and to 10,850 points here and there on the support side and resistance side.
All right, and Pankaj, what do you think is happening on the pharma stocks? Because we're seeing good traction over there, and we've had particularly good news as far as a couple of these stocks are concerned, especially with the US FDA clearing it for Biocon with their biosimilar in recent times. Do you think we're completely out of the woods and pharma can be played as the defensive that we've always known it as?
So see, there have been a lot of things that are happening on the pharma side, but there is no specific clarity whether things that the pharma is actually recovered from all the negatives that we have seen. Biocon is one exception that we have seen in the pharma space. Again, it has been actually moving against the tide. But I don't really see that things have actually changed significantly, because until unless I see some kind of a growth momentum building up and where I can actually project growth in terms of pharma earnings, I would not be very bullish on it. Yes, but in terms of valuation, as I have been always saying, that in terms of valuation, pharma looks very, very exciting because they have corrected significantly, and it looks very exciting from a long-term perspective, from a 2-year horizon. Pharma looks a very nice bet. But immediately, if there's an upswing today, like Sun Pharma is up 5% or Dr. Reddy is up 3%, I think it is not one segment that will sustain this kind of a rally. I think at any given point of time, at every rise, there will be shorts built up, and the markets will see the level to correct.
Right. Well, we're watching what's happening in the pharma stocks today. Indeed, from a long-term perspective, certain brokerages are pretty bullish on this. Today, of course, they're leading the charts. The large-cap names indeed are, but there are two big brokerages, JP Morgan and CLSA, who believe that this is the right time to start buying select pharma stocks, even if the sector is not out of the doldrums yet, something that is what's troubling Pankaj over here. But Hiral is also here from our research team to walk us through what we're hearing from the brokerages on some of the leading pharma names. Hiral?
That's right. So overall, we have CLSA as well as JP Morgan, where slightly different views coming in on the sector. To start off with regards to where JP Morgan is concerned, what they are saying is that it's still pretty much early to buy into the sector weakness. Yes, we have seen, underperformance coming in from the pharma space, but still probably this could not be the right time to be bullish with regards to the entire sector as a whole is concerned. The major reasons coming in over here is the continued, downward earnings revision that we are witnessing with regards to where pharma goes, and what they are saying is it's really early to call out a bottom with regards to where the sector is concerned. Now, there are new risks also emerging for the sector, particularly with regards to where the high margin domestic business is concerned. With regards to where the US generic environment goes, that remains competitive with elevated FDA approvals, and on the back of a consensus estimates for large caps, if you go to see, they are pretty much aggressive right now, and they prefer stocks mainly with visibility with regards to where product launches is concerned, as well as where valuations are really supportive. So overall, they're not really bullish on the sector as a whole, but they have two topics coming in over there with Dr. Reddy's, where they have a target price of 2,850, and Aurobindo Pharma, where they have a target price of 775. Now, with this, you have a CLSA as well. What they are saying is that the earnings downgrades have continued, but even the valuation comfort is growing on a slow and steady pace. Now, the PE valuations are reasonable reasonable as compared to the historic 5-year PE valuations. If you compare that, currently pharma as a sector is at a reasonable valuation. The US sales are becoming stable on a sequential basis. US challenges do remain, but the commentary that we are hearing from the management has also improved with regards to where price erosion goes right now. Apart from that, if you talk about the domestic growth story, that's also normalizing right now for companies which are mainly focused to the domestic play. Margins are also supportive on the back of the cost controls as well as the cost rationalization measures that the companies are taking, as well as now we are seeing some bit of a cap that's coming in on the R&D spends as well. Overall, in terms of Q4, what CLSA is saying is that it was a stable quarter. The NTA filings have remained strong with regards to Q4 as well as for the year as a whole, and most companies are expecting deflation with regards to US pricing, and that is expected to improve gradually as well. And earnings have bottomed out for two companies, especially Sun Pharma as well as Dr. Reddy's. They have a target price of 600 on Sun Pharma, whereas on a Glenmark they have a target price of 650 as the top pick. So four counters that two brokerages are really betting big on: Dr. Reddy's, Aurobindo, Sun Pharma as well as Glenmark from the pharma space.
Thanks for taking us through all of that. Time for us really now to talk about PSU banks that are very much in focus at the moment. Remember, there's supposed to be that big meeting that's taking place with the interim finance minister as well, in terms of what the strategy is going to be when it comes to this particular sector itself. Let's bring up those stocks for you. I want to show you the kind of buzz that's around them. Showing you right now PNB, Andhra Bank as well as Allahabad Bank as well. All of those seem to be very much in the green, up between over 3% as well. Bringing up some more banks for you as well: Indian Overseas as well as Union Bank of India and IDBI Bank as well for you. Pankaj, just coming to you on this, of course, we seem to be looking at consolidation that's supposed to be on the agenda, but as investors, what is the general sentiment in terms of the strategy going forward?
So I think the mood of the market is like, in terms of valuation, whatever is cheap right now is the stocks that people want to buy. So PSU as a whole, we believe there's a black hole that no one can actually talk much about it unless we see the quarter-on-quarter numbers. If we have seen in last few quarters, we obviously kept on saying that I think we have seen the bottom, and then one new thing comes in. But in terms of valuation, yes, PSUs are really trading very attractive. Some stocks such as Canara Bank or Bank of Baroda or SBI, for that matter, at the current levels, they are trading at really very attractive levels. At a time when more interesting is the large cap private sector banks are trading really expensive. A Kotak Bank is trading really expensive. HDFC Bank will always continue to remain expensive. But even IndusInd, Kotak, or maybe an Yes also are trading fairly expensive. So in that point of view, I think from a comparative analysis, PSUs are looking very attractive. But I am telling you, we cannot really again determine whether this is the bottom at this point of time. So if an investor who is looking to hold on to stocks for a couple of year horizon, I think PSU banks will give you, the risk reward is in favor of PSU banks right now.
So then how do you look at the valuations? Even if you were to go and pick out stocks within the public sector banking space, Pankaj, what are the criteria that you would have in mind? Because look at some of their books, and they're not anywhere close to being out of the woods, as it were. Some of them would actually call it a very messy picture. So within that, if you're going to make a contrarian call and say, look, at these levels, perhaps it makes sense to go in, how would you pick?
See, I would try to play it very safe, I will try to buy an SBI and try to be the safest bet in that case. Rather than getting into smaller stocks, or rather than getting into small stocks such as regional stocks such as a PNB, I would rather like to buy a stock such as a pan-India presence, which is SBI. SBI remains the leader. It is a real direct projection of the GDP growth of the country, and as we say, so I would rather like to buy a SBI.
I hate to
yeah. I would rather like to buy.
Pankaj, I don't want to interrupt you, but very quick answer before I go to my colleague who's standing by with more details. There's also a sentiment that we seem to be merging out of a crisis when it comes to this kind of strategy that's being put forward with PSU banks. What is your first take on that?
That's for me.
Yeah, for you, Pankaj.
Okay, so it's not going to be easy to merge all those PSU banks. You know, there are more things rather than the books and rather than the business. There are more other things to get merged into a PSU banks. If you see in the past, SBI to merge with its own subsidiaries took a lot of amount of time. So I am no expert to really get into details of what would the synergies that will come up after merging PSU banks. But yes, to look at from a broader perspective, if you see, to manage smaller banks or manage books which are multiple books rather than consolidate them and manage it together is one thought that the government might have, but it's not really going to be easy. There are a lot of HR issues, there is a lot of overlapping, there is overlapping of branches, branch networks. I think although there has been a lot of saying for this to merge few banks and make into 4 or 5 large banks, I am not quite sure how the execution would be out here.
Okay, all right. Glad to have that opinion on board from you, Pankaj. My colleague Nivrita, of course, has been tracking this very carefully. She's joining us now just to give us a sense as to what could possibly be on that agenda from that meeting with PSU banks. Nivrita, over to you. What are you picking up?
Absolutely, the big meeting that we're watching out for, and of course we'll get the results of that meeting, a briefing from the Finance Minister Piyush Goyal at about 4 p.m. this evening. But ahead of that, let's just go through some of the details that we've been picking up from sources. The first is that this meeting will actually take place in 2 parts. The first meeting that is currently underway is a meeting with the DFS Secretary, meeting various lenders. We're learning as many as 15 heads of banks, PSU banks, are at that meeting that's underway at SBI Bhavan at the moment. We'll also have Piyush Goyal then joining in and meeting with these various bank heads, and that will be the second part of the meeting. Now, on the agenda, of course, with the number of issues that are of concern at the moment in the banking sector, what we're learning is this is more of a progress meeting. So this is an opportunity for Piyush Goyal to actually take stock. It comes on the back of the PCA bank meeting that was held in New Delhi earlier as well. Largely what is on the agenda, we're learning, is risk mitigation, credit flow at the moment, plans to really pick up the entire credit cycle, a timeline for enhancing standards of Indian banks in line with global standards. That's something the Reserve Bank too has been talking about over and over again, and recapitalization in terms of raising funds from the markets. Remember that we had the first tranche of recapitalization go through. The second tranche, about $11 billion, is on the anvil, of course, also. But the government has been encouraging PSU banks to raise funds directly from the markets, and the ways that these banks can go about and do that is something that will be discussed at today's meeting. So this is just some of what will be discussed at the meeting today. Of course, we can't rule out that we'll get any sort of an announcement in terms of maybe a timeline for mergers or discussions about restructuring power loans. Remember, the power sector has been under a tremendous amount of stress, and we've been telling you that the government is working with banks to come up with a way to actually deal with these power loans at the moment. But on the agenda today, it's largely a progress meeting. Credit flow, risk mitigation, enhancing standards in line with global standards. Those are some of the things on the agenda.
And it's not surprising that risk mitigation would be top of the agenda over here as well. The finance minister himself is trying to get a sense of how to kind of move ahead with the kind of problems that public sector banks have had, something the government has been grappling with. So that being on top of the agenda, also mergers and the power sector loans, which have been crippling to say the least, that would perhaps be what we'll hear from the finance minister about any decisions taken. We're not quite sure, but at least we'll get a status check on what has been arrived at. Thanks very much, Nivrita. We're turning our attention to the FMCG space as well. The pack as a whole is down about 0.7%, but HUL is in focus. The company is going to focus on new products and data analytics to boost margins ahead, and they're using all that artificial intelligence to predict grocery needs that you and I may have. In fact, we had a chance to speak about this to Amnish Agarwal of Prabhudas Leeladhar, and they've come out with a bullish recommendation on HUL. This is the rationale for betting big on this stock.
You see, we are recommending the investors to accumulate the stock The target price is 1627, which offers a few percentage points upside from here. But I think it is a stock for the longer term because the target price here, the difference is less because the stock has run up quite a bit. So from here on, for meaningful gains, one will have to hold on in the longer term.
Pankaj, what's your own take as far as HUL is concerned when you look at the entire FMCG pack and you look at perhaps the second largest player over here? How do you think it's likely to do from a long-term perspective? At these levels, would you be a buyer? And if not, then are there any other FMCG picks, considering that the consumption theme remains high on the agenda of any expert that we've been speaking to of late?
So HUL has been one of my favorite stocks for a very long time right now. If you see the results that came in, they had a significant growth in terms of revenue, 16% growth in revenues at around 160 basis point expansion in EBITDA margin. The recently concluded meeting by the management actually gave a very strong growth projection. I don't say projection, but they gave a fantastic view on where the company is going through. Use of robotics to actually reduce a lot of manpower, use of robotics in warehousing that will reduce the amount of inventory and boosting the margins. Then you have seen that they have been actually, there have been instances where they are reducing the use of personal guys and distributors, and rather than using technology where a retailer can directly book his stock from the app. So what they are doing is continuously making an effort to grow the margins. At the second time, and on the other hand, there have been a lot of challenges that came in from Patanjali over the last few years. But that Patanjali challenge has actually now seen it's not been there. Patanjali itself is not growing significantly, and the brands that the Ayush brand or the liver brand or the Indulekha brand that liver is actually selling right now, they are doing fairly good. What I personally see is, in terms of valuation, the stock might look at expensive at 45 times FY20, but I can see a large FMCG stock which is seeing good amount of growth trajectory, which is confident of giving me better margins, expansion of margins going ahead. I think this is one stock, irrespective of the market movement, I will buy, and it can, in terms of where markets can correct, and it will still remain a very good stock in my portfolio. So I will remain bullish on the stock.
Some important news that's coming in on a Sun Pharma. I understand that it's gotten voluntary action that's been indicated status for a Halol unit for the US FDA. That is a significant development when it comes to this particular counter as well. We're pulling that up for a stock alert for you. In fact, what we're telling our viewers is that basically, Sun Pharma has gotten that voluntary action indicated status for really Halol from US FDA. What does that actually mean when it comes to this company? My colleague Hiral is joining us right now for this. Hiral, give us a sense as to what this development means, and just make some sense into what we're seeing with the stock at the moment.
So overall, the stock on the back of this news is at the day's highest levels. Now, as we know, that clearance with regards to where Halol is concerned has been a major overhang in terms of where Sun Pharma goes. And now the news that we're picking up is that they've got voluntary action indicated status, and this is from the US FDA, which is a key positive, and that's the major reason why we are seeing this kind of an uptrend. Now, the major issue with Sun Pharma was that a lot of their launches were halted on the back of the clearance that was awaited with regards to Halol. Now, this is one step closer with regards to getting an EIR and a complete clearance. Now, a VAI voluntary action indicated is a key positive that Sun Pharma has received for the Halol facility, because with regards to where US sales is concerned, major sales come in, major production happens from the Halol facility, and getting a VAI is a key positive, on the back of which the stock has run up to the day's highest levels. Now, overall as well, a lot of other launches that have happened. For example, you have a Welcol as well that was given an approval by the US FDA. But with this move now, what will happen is that the launch process will get fastened with regards to where key launches of Sun Pharma are concerned. Majority of of the production with regards to where US sales is concerned for Sun Pharma is going to come out from Halol, and this is going to be a major overhang that will go off, and probably we'll have to wait and watch, as to what the management also has to say as to now how many days it will take for them to get the EIR as well, and what is this VAI actually pertaining to. But this is a key positive with regards to where Sun Pharma goes, and clearly there could be a possibility of a re-rating happening on this as well.
A re-rating likely on Sun Pharma, a significant piece of news, a positive piece of news, and this on a day that we are talking about the Pharma Pack, which has been running up in trade today. And within that, you're seeing Sun Pharma hit the day's high, 7.5 percentage points and counting on the back of this piece of news, getting voluntary action indicated status for their Halol unit. Pankaj, does this even marginally change the way you're looking at the Pharma Pack? We were talking about the grey clouds when you talk about US FDA action, and most of it has been positive of late. But then these stocks react every time there is that kind of positive news coming in, especially when you talk about US FDA clearance. So would you think of it as just another spike, or would you want to think of changing tack when it comes to the Pharma Pack and with stocks like leading pharma stocks like Sun Pharma?
So I think it's too early to say anything right now. It's a cheer that you can see on the streets that the stock is up 7%. You have seen that some other pharma stocks are also catching up. But I think I will wait till I really change my view significantly. I'll see how the stock moves up, and I would like to do an analysis of what's going to come out in terms of the numbers. I would rather wait for a quarter or two, buy a bit higher, no doubt, no problems. But at this point of time, I think it's too early to react.
Okay.
Okay, too early to react. Pankaj, hold on to that thought, because we also have Amit Chalke of HDFC Securities joining us right now. Thank you so much for joining us. Your quick take really in terms of what we're seeing as a spike in Sun Pharma, the boost really for the company. We understand that there's going to be no reinspection when it comes to Halol as well. Your reaction to these developments, as well as what you're looking at, what you feel about the stock at these levels.
So obviously this is a positive development for Sun Pharma, but we need to also see that all these developments are also priced in. So people have already assumed that Halol will get cleared in the second half of FY19. So and even during the guidance they have given, the top line growth would be around low double digit. So there also they have assumed that Halol clearance. So in that sense, Halol clearance is priced in at this point of time.
Right. Amay, as you're saying that yes, the Halol clearance is already priced in with the way the stock has moved post Q4 earnings right now. But now, how close do you think they are from receiving the EIR?
So VAI typically means that there are few observations, but those are not very critical. So that means that they could sooner or later they will clear this facility, and the warning letter will get lifted basically.
Right. So once the warning letter gets lifted as well, which are the key launches that you're expecting with regards to where Halol goes, where Sun Pharma, will be the gainer right now?
So that's the main issue, that the visibility on the lucrative launches is not very high on the generic side at this point of time. So although we are expecting complex injectable product approvals from the Halol facility, which they had not received because of the warning letter. However, there is not very high visibility whether which approval will get which product will receive approval in FY19 basically.
Okay, and with the, with Sun Pharma receiving a VAI, do you think there could be a possibility of a further re-rating happening?
So, see, I would bet on their specialty business basically, because going ahead, the generic business is not likely to grow in higher double digit or even single digit. So, the specialty business will drive the growth going ahead. So, the FY19 would be the year of investment in the specialty side. So, that will keep margins little muted for throughout the year. So, that is the pie which one should concentrate on, and how their products are moving in the specialty side of the business.
Right. And with this kind of a clearance coming through as well, do you think it could have a counter impact or, a positive impact with regards to Spark as well?
Yes,
Sun
it
Pharma
will,
Advanced?
because there are two products which are filed from the Spark. Those are specialty products, I guess, Zelpros and Ellipsia. So obviously, if warning letter is getting lifted, then Spark can also receive those. They will start receiving royalties for that products also.
What would your target be with regards to Sun Pharma as well as Sun Pharma Advanced Research?
I was not able to hear you.
What would your target price be on both these stocks now?
So Spark we don't cover, but we have target price for Sun Pharma, that is around 530, and we have neutral rating.
Okay.
All right. Thanks very much, Amit Chalke, for joining us with your take on Sun Pharma. US FTA relief coming in for the company, seen as a positive, and indeed 7% up on Sun Pharma. Spark is up by more than 9 percentage points as we speak. Isn't that right, Hira?
That's right. And overall, if you go to see, why Halol is also important is because it's a US-focused facility which mainly manufactures injectables as well as oral solids. So these are two segments which come from the Halol facility. Now, what analysts are saying is that once this approval comes through with regards to where Halol goes, we could see probably $30 to $40 million worth of new approvals from Halol in FY19. So that's the kind of estimation that we are looking at. So this could probably be a positive that could work with regards to where Halol goes. And one is, the epilepsy drug, which is Ellipsia. That is something which is actually awaiting approval, and they were awaiting a clearance of the Halol facility to get an approval with regards to where Ellipsia goes. Apart from that, a lot of other specialty product pipeline is something that could have been filed from Halol, with over 50 new drugs that are expected to be filed from the Halol facility. So yes, as Amey was also mentioning, that yet they've not given us a clarity as to which are the products that will be filed, but around 50 products is the kind of pipeline that we are watching out for in FY19, $40 to $50 million worth of new launches that could come in right now.
Absolutely. Looking quite good. Meanwhile, 2 days after Videocon Industries has been admitted to NCLT Mumbai, the National Company Law Tribunal, its subsidiary and flagship company, Videocon Telecommunications, has also been admitted by the NCLT for insolvency proceedings. The company is part of the second list of defaulters by the Reserve Bank of India. Let's find out what's happening on Videocon Telecommunications now that it is at the NCLT. Neha is joining us with the latest on this. My colleague who's reporting on the matter. Neha, do tell us what you're picking up. The last time we were speaking to you was about Videocon, the parent company, making it now to NCLT, the entire case, which would be a good amount of relief to its primary lenders, and that includes SBI and ICICI Bank. But now that we have Videocon Communications, Telecommunications at the NCLT, what's the latest that you're picking up on this?
That's right. As you said, the Mumbai bench of NCLT today has finally admitted Videocon Telecommunications, which is a subsidiary as well as a flagship company of Videocon Industries, for insolvency proceedings. And as you said, this comes shortly after Videocon Industries itself was admitted to NCLT 2 days ago. Now, SBI is the key banker, lead banker, with a total exposure of about 1,700 odd crores to the company. Note that Videocon Group's total debt is upwards of rupees 20,000 crores. Anuj Jain again from KPMG has been appointed as the resolution professional. And I note that Videocon Telecommunications is part of the second list of defaulters sent by the RBI for resolution. And now that the company has been admitted, the RP will get about 180 days plus extension of 90 days to come up with a viable resolution plan to repay the debt of the company, and failing to do so will lead to the company getting liquidated.
Question I have for you, Neha, is that now that we know that the company is, of course, admitted to the NCLT, what exactly is the future course of action?
Well, exactly now, as far as the process going forward is concerned, two key developments that could have a major bearing on the resolution process are, now firstly, there is a petition filed by Videocon at the principal bench in New Delhi for the consolidation of all the insolvency processes against all the subsidiaries of the company. Videocon Group companies such as Millennium Appliances India, Sky Appliances, Techno Electronics, Videocon and Videocon International Electronics, Videocon Global, etc. are being separated separately taken to NCLT courts by separate lenders. Secondly, Venugopal Dhut has said to us that he is banking on a very crucial development in IBC ordinance that came in a couple of days ago. This ordinance allows withdrawal of insolvency petition if 90% of lenders vote in favor for it. It now remains to be seen how the lenders will respond to this proposal, as that will impact the future course of the company. Just to reiterate, the company had, before it was sent to NCLT, submitted a resolution plan to the lenders. The resolution plan included paying off the entire debt of upwards of 20,000 crores in the next 10 years by selling properties worth 6,000 crores plus cash flows from their oil business.
Yes, that's what they had promised. Despite that, of course, we have the case before the NCLT Mumbai, and now that we have the Videocon telecommunications case before the NCLT as well, in light of what the ordinance brings in by some relief really to some of these companies, we'll see exactly how the case progresses. Thanks indeed for joining us with that, Neha. And also time for us to thank our guest on the show, Pankaj Karde from Systematix. Great to get in your perspectives on the sectors and stocks that we have been able to discuss. But we take a quick break now. After that, we are going to connect with Injati Srinivas, the MCA Secretary, to talk about the speeding up of the bankruptcy resolution. Do stay tuned for that conversation. We'll be right back with that on Lunch Money.